planet Earth. Here we continue, as we've done for so many years, remembering those who've passed through the ranks of IRAS. Whatever your belief is about whether there's a next world or a last one, they're gone somewhere that's not here now. So the first, we'll be memorializing 5 people: Roger Brown, John Albright, Holmes Ralston III, Michael Roos, and Carl Peters. I got it out. And we will hear anything that you want to say is fair game here. A little emphasis on the nouns and the stories rather than the adjectives will go a long way. And anything that touches you personally brings him back to life for the rest of us. This is part of the mourning process. So, who wants to talk about Michael Roos?
I'll say something real quick.
Okay.
Because Michael and I were friends for almost 40 years and enjoyed Star Island many years together. And through him, I got to know his extended family. Through Michael here at Star, I got to know his extended family, and that has enriched me and many others. And I just want to say the obvious, how much we're going to miss him here on the island. He's a beloved speaker, much appreciated, and we're just going to miss his humor and his amazing person. And so here's in memory of Michael. I know he'll always be a part of us here at Star.
Okay. Have Jane Bexton come on forward. Anyone else? Okay. Okay.
Can I say it out loud? Michael used to always, Connie on the phone, ready for me, Connie. Michael used to give out M&Ms a lot towards the end. I'm sure a lot of you knew Michael in his better years. In the last few years, we'd already sort of lost Michael. But before he was like that, he was fun and energetic, and towards the end, when he just still wanted to make contact, and a lot of it was just lying in bed, the kids would come in and he would give M&Ms out. So Anastasia and Ariel have 2 cups of M&Ms. They would like to just walk around and give them out.
Dad, come on forward.
Well, Michael, I think, deserves particularly to be memorialized for the fact that he would hate to have had anybody thinking that he aspired to be a saint. Even though in his own way there was a certain sense in which he did, he was certainly willing to be a holy fool. And I have a couple of stories to tell about him. One was many years ago in one of the conferences toward the end of the 90s, or early 2000s conference, where he came up when Phil Hefner was talking to assault Phil on Phil's lack of Christianity, with Mike's insistence that he knew what it was to be a Christian, whereas Phil, of course, a Lutheran theologian, did not. And that was the same kind of interaction that he had with other people. I remember the year in which Sarah Hurley talked, in which Michael came strolling down the aisle to challenge everything that she had said about the nature of motherhood, which Sarah had studied in the context of various kinds of primate studies. So you had to appreciate that Michael was going to challenge you, and he had this wonderful acerbic approach. When I changed jobs, he said, you know, got booted out again. You know, that was just the way he interacted with people, but he was also incredibly supportive when I was looking for help in running the sexuality conference in 1999, when my previous conference co-chairs had begged out, and I went to Michael and said, would you be one of my co-chairs? And he and Barbara Whitaker Johns signed up with less than a year to go before the conference began, and threw themselves into it. He was an IRAS stalwart, even though he wasn't an IRAS institutional person. And not having him around takes some real spice out of our lives.
I just want to jump in real quick about him challenging Christian thought. I said that we were talking about the Nicene Creed, and I said, well, as Phil would say, I accept it critically, and then, like, well, you have to accept it, because then I can reject it.
Joe?
Thanks, I'll be brief. You gave out more than M&Ms, witty comments. I've come to know the family in different and interesting ways over the years. And Michael always kept me and some of the staff on edge, but also was very loving and kind. And so I speak with nothing but joy in memory of him. I also want to hold up that in oh geez, I don't remember the year, it ended with a 9. He did a Darwin conference on Star Island, and I think it was the 150th anniversary, and brought a whole bunch of people out here, and he was the impetus for that. And I could go on and on, but there's lots of people, and Michael's one of those characters I'll always remember as part of the fabric of Star Island. Thank you.
But I think he deserves to be remembered as part of the fabric of American intellectual life. He was foursquare for the values of the Enlightenment, for science as such, and he was being hit from the right by all kinds of religious opinions, and he held his own, never shrunk from a fight that I knew of. He's been in courtrooms all over the country explaining what science can tell you about those books that are written, those scriptures that are written. So I think he's a hero. Probably ought to have a sign 50 feet tall. Michael, the home of Michael Roos. Okay, sorry. Who else has got something?
Well, first of all, Michael got to all of us in many, many different ways throughout our time at IRAS. He was such a meaningful person, and I'll just tell you one short little story about Michael here, which epitomizes everything that's been said, but in a different way. The first time he came on the island, and he looked around and he says, who is he? And he pointed at Ralph. This was Ralph Burhoff, you know. And he decided that right then and there, he was going to take the same contrasting view that you mentioned, and that Ted mentioned just now, and challenge whether the emperor of IRAS had any clothes. And he did. and it resulted in this total quiet as he was criticizing everything that Ralph had to say and everything his perspective represented. And there was silence after that. And Ralph did not know exactly how to respond. And it took Ralph at least a day to respond adequately to this, which was, of course, to welcome this guy in and to enjoy his company and enjoy his challenges. And from then on, he looked at himself as a Quaker who was willing to challenge. He grew up challenging the institutions. And all he did was bring that, as far as he was concerned, with him here to share with us in every way. And each of us, I'm sure, had that feeling as he challenged us. But the important point is he left us with an incredible gift. That is his presence and his willingness to do anything and everything for us, with us, right up until the end of his life. And so from that, we have a great debt to his memory today.
Some of you may remember in the best-selling book, The God Delusion, and as I recall, Michael was severely criticized, took a lot of heat in that book, and about a year later, another theologian wrote a book called The Dawkins Delusion. And right on the front cover was a statement by Michael Roos, and Michael Roos said something like, the God delusion made me ashamed to be an atheist, but this book tells me why. This book tells me why. But in a more personal sense, I don't know if you may remember this, a couple of years ago, we couldn't get back to the island. There was a storm that came up, and it was so stormy that we had to stay here another day. It was very dark and rainy, and I remember sitting next to Michael, next to the gift shop. We were sitting next to the fire. It was sort of cold, and I must say he was very helpful to me. I was trying to get a book published, and he gave me a lot of good advice. We had a long conversation, and just his caring was very touching.
Comments on Michael Roos?
I'm probably not very well known to you all because I'm not like part of the IRAS group. I came along to this because Michael would invite me to join his family here. I was one of Michael's grad students. His favorite way of introducing me was that when you hear Edwin talk, he has this awful Australian accent, but don't worry, he mumbles all the time, so you can't understand. That's how all the undergrad students got introduced to me. I'm trying to hold this close to my mouth to counteract that trait of mine. But he cared really deeply about his grad students, and it came from a place of personal experience. He would tell us that he didn't have a great time in his first year as a grad student, and that he wanted none of his students ever to suffer that. So, and he did everything he could to make sure that we were happy, well-fed, and entertained. So.
Going once, going twice, we're going to move on.
I forgot my glasses, so I can't see anything. But I'm Rebecca, and I am Michael's daughter. And I just, I've been thinking a lot about my dad and his legacy, which is pretty profound. And I mean, what the heck do you say about Michael Roos? He was certainly an individual, but I think the thing that we have to remember about him and that just really stands out, besides his ability to make people highly uncomfortable very quickly, and if we rounded a dirty joke, I think was just that he was flawless in his willingness to connect with people and to sit down with anybody and to talk with anybody, and I think that was the foundation of really who he was. He was curious, and he wasn't just curious about sort of the broader world, but he was curious about every single person that he met, regardless of who they were or where they were from, or perhaps more so because of who they were and where they were from. And I just think that if we take one thing away and we remember one thing about him, that should really be our lesson that we have. So.
All right, those who came here to talk about Michael Russo, to listen to Michael Russo, are welcome to stay. But we're going to move on to the other people we have to honor today. So, Roger Brown. We'll read you the obituary, and then we'll have whoever wants to come and talk about Roger. Reverend Roger L. Brown, 81 of Fairview Street, a longtime resident of Brattleboro, this is Brattleboro, Vermont, died Sunday night, December 8, 2024, in his home from a heart attack. He was born December 31st, 1942, to Maynard P. and Estelle H. Brown in Brattleboro. He was the oldest of two sons. Roger was a lifelong learner who loved to share his knowledge with others. This was through formal schooling, workshops, the writers' groups, piano lessons, painting classes, to name a few. He graduated from BUHS in 1960 and received a BS and MS from UVM, University of Vermont. He holds a Master's of Divinity from Andover Newton Theological School. Roger serves churches as a called or interim pastor in Wyoming, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. In his retirement, he was very active in Center Congregational Church, UCC, and conference activities. He was a member of IRAS, the Institute of Religion of an Age of Science. He was a ham radio operator. In retirement, he took workshops and language classes at SIT and met students from all over the world. He was able to support many of them while they were studying here, and eventually got to visit some of them in their native country. Throughout his life, he delighted in relating to people and was an enthusiastic traveler. He also enjoyed hiking and the coast and would often share the photos he took. Roger is survived by his brother David, sister-in-law Linda from Phoenix, Oregon, and a multitude of cousins. I remember Roger in the clergy conference that we set up within IRAS. He was a faithful attender and often had good suggestions about how to deal with the larger IRAS group. So he had a lot of innate common sense and wit, and as far as I know, was a fine clergyman and representative of his denomination. Any comments on Roger Brown? Come on up.
I don't have too much more to add, except that I was introduced to him here, right on the island. I can still, one of those rocking chairs, a friend introduced us in 1996, and we immediately hit it off. I mean, we both love science and religion, and we were both Vermonters. He was based in Brattleboro, as I said, and I grew up in Cabot and Richford on the Canadian border. So I particularly remember visiting him in his many interim churches, most of them in Vermont. One of the last ones was near Norwich University that I particularly remember. And then he had one in Massachusetts that I remember, one down in the Cape. There was one in Winchester, south of Keene. So he was there about a year at a time, and so I have many happy memories. And so also I think he was very influential. Remember the year we went to Silver Bay? We abandoned the island for several conferences, and he suggested that we meet at Silver Bay, and I think we did that for 2 years. So I think he was responsible in that, being very pleasant meetings on Silver Bay and beautiful Lake George, and I think he was influential. So we need to continue on his love and enthusiasm for science and religion.
Anyone else?
It turns out that Silver Bay was really an important time for him, because not only did he support IRAS, but he supported the conference we've had. I was chairing that conference that year on food issues that we had. And it was controversial to some extent, because there's so many different elements of it, there's so many different ideas floating around. When IRAS wasn't here, wasn't meeting on Star Island, it meant a whole new way of looking at everything we did. And everything required more thought, more energy. And there was no one on that committee that worked harder than him to come up with all kinds of ways that people could participate, and it reflected his sense of the community that he represented in Vermont, and the way in which he did it was just supreme in terms of the cooperation and the support we got from him. So it was just quite a wonderful human being, and I never forgot how much he helped make that conference such a success at the time. So again, it was just that kind of a person. He would just get in there and do it. And you didn't have to ask him to do it again. He did it. And his whole life, I think, was like that.
Jennifer?
I'll just never get Jennifer.
So, I'm not sure when I met Roger, it might have been 1996. I started coming to IRAS in 95. And he was so interested in how the youth were doing. He was really a big supporter, and you may see me running around doing this, doing that. If I ever needed an extra pair of hands, I would say, Roger, could you get me some scissors from the desk? Go off and get them. And then we served on the council together, and I'm really glad that the people who spoke before me mentioned how many ideas he had. He had so many ideas. As a matter of fact, he was full over the top with them. And I would say, okay, Roger, who do you think could do this? Well, I don't know. Well, would you be able to work on this? Oh, no. So at first I thought, this is a little frustrating. There are so many great ideas. He would appear late at night when I was doing Beacon Editor, he would appear at 10:30. Here, more ideas. Good. Then I figured out Roger is an idea person. I said to him, Roger, I figured out you're an idea person. And from then on, anytime he had an idea, he would say very proudly, well, I'm an idea person. So I feel very, very grateful to have known Roger. And when I heard that he had passed, I was, I feel very sad that I didn't, I had quite a bit of time with a lot of people, but I really feel like I would have liked more time with Roger. He was a deep person with so much knowledge, and I wish that I had more time. It really reminds me to take time with every single person, which is essentially what Roger's greatest gift was.
Ted?
I would just echo what Jennifer said. I found Roger to be always supportive, but he was not insistent upon his own way. But there is something that everybody should know, which is a very important gift from Roger in his bequest, in his will. IRAS is a significant beneficiary of his estate, and we haven't gotten the funds yet, but they will be a major contribution to our ongoing financial stability, and we will have to be talking on the IRAS Council about what we will do to recognize that, but it's a particularly important gift because it did not come with any restrictions, so we can do with it what we deem to be the best thing, which is what Roger was all about, empowering other people to do things.
Thank you, Ted. Moving along. John Albright. John Albright, who died on April 2nd, was not an ordinary physics professor. He was a physicist who was not only well-versed in hymns, but that had almost two full careers, one spanning science and mathematics, and the other theological exploration through the lens of science. His contribution to the religion and science dialogue, including writing, developing courses, organizing conferences, mentoring, and even teaching at a seminary. Albright retired in 2004 from Purdue University as a professor of physics and associate chair of the physics department. He also created and taught religion and science courses and struck up a unique relationship with world-renowned theoretical physicist Paul Dirac. While at Florida State, he developed religion and science coursework that was backed by the John Templeton Foundation in the 1990s. He worked on organized regional conferences on the topic of teaching religion and science with his wife Carol Rausch Albright, who died in 2023. A member of the Lutheran Alliance for Faith, Science, and Technology Steering Committee, Albright also hosted adult forums and study groups at his Lutheran church in Chicago. Notably, he and Carol hosted monthly salons in their Hyde Park apartment where research papers were shared as well as long-standing friendships formed that spanned denominational and religious belief. He was also a visiting professor of religion and science at the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago. His last work on religion and science was the book Interactive World, Interactive God, which was compiled in close collaboration with his wife. The 2017 book came out of many discussions the couple had with the theologians and other scientists over the course of the years. They focused on the fact that the 21st century had brought new scientific research capabilities which reveal that scientific results are not totally predictable after all, not unlike quantum physics. Perhaps even more unpredictable was the incalculable impact he had on many students, leading by example and exploring one's faith and vocation in deep and meaningful ways in a very public way. I only have one interaction with John Albright to report. It was when I was on council and we were meeting in Chicago, and the Albrights hosted the board, the council, at their house for dinner, and I got seated next to John, who also revealed a side of himself that he was a amateur historian, and he'd grown up in southern Pennsylvania, and he said the reason the southern Pennsylvania turned out the way it was because William Penn did not know that all Germans were not pacifists. He decided that the pacifist Germans were totally useless to do the thing he felt most important for the colony of Pennsylvania, which is to keep the Roman Catholics from moving over from Maryland. So the first thing he did was hire the best surveyors, Mason and Dixon, to get a line that was incontrovertible. And then he took Northern Ireland Presbyterians and populated the southern, the 20 miles nearest the border with Presbyterians, which you see a lot of Scottish names for the places in there. So that's what I got out of John, and I've told that 1,000 times, and nobody's ever contradicted me. So maybe it's right. John Albright, who do we have? Anybody? Yes, come on. Oh no, I wanted, you've already had one turn. Let's get Dan out up here.
I knew John and Carol, his wife, through the salon that Edmund mentioned that they held in Hyde Park in Chicago. I live in Chicago. So for a number of years, I attended that monthly with a few other IRASians, including Mel Gray, who died a couple years ago, we commemorated here. Bill Irons, some of you may remember, and Grace Wolf Chase. A number of people were there, but Carol was sort of the leader of the group, but Bill was more, John was kind of the host. He would man the bar and make sure the drinks and the wine and the cheese and crackers were all out there. But, and again, as Edmund mentioned, he was good friends with Paul Dirac and a fellow physicist. And he would always tell stories about Dirac. And they had Paul Dirac's chair in the corner in the living room where we would meet, because when Dirac died, his wife gave the chair to John and Carol. And as a physics major, I was kind of in awe. There was the chair there. Mel would always sit in that chair. I would usually give him a ride. So one day Mel couldn't make it, So I asked John, can I sit in Paul Dirac's chair? And I got to sit just once in Paul Dirac's chair. One of many highlights in those meetings.
Thank you. Did we have one other for? No.
Well, I particularly remember John as the person who organized a Templeton Foundation Science and Religion course, and it was around 1995, 1996, the year I retired, and I decided I wanted to do more in science and religion, so I remember him chairing that conference. Another time I remember meeting him at the Europe I think it was Scotland, Edinburgh, Scotland. There was a European Society for the Study of Science and Theology meeting, and I remember meeting him and having some interesting conversations at that point. Again, he also mentioned Paul Dirac, as he always would.
All right. You put that down, Liz. Holmes Ralston III. Holmes Ralston, November 19th, 1932, February 12th, 2025, was an American philosopher who was University Distinguished Professor of Philosophy at Colorado State University. He is best known for his contributions to environmental ethics and the relationship between science and religion. Among other honors, Ralston won the 2003 Templeton Prize, awarded by Prince Philip in Buckingham Palace. He gave the Gifford Lectures, University of Edinburgh, 1997 to 1998. He also served on the Advisory Council of METI, M-E-T-I, which is Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Ralston was a Presbyterian minister in Rockbridge, Bath, Virginia, before he was ousted by his congregation in 1965 amid conflict over his environmental interpretation. Afterwards, he turned to academia, and after earning an MA in the philosophy of science from the University of Pittsburgh in 1968, began his career later that year as an assistant professor of philosophy at Colorado State University. Let me give you just one little intellectual piece of his life. Ralston accepted that humans have rights, but criticized the idea of animal rights and extending rights to flora because there are no rights in the wild. Ralston argued that a rights approach to sentient life is ill-suited to ecosystems, and when a moral agent is faced with suffering in an ecosystem, there is no duty to intervene. In 1991, Ralston stated, this is a quote from Ralston, "When we try to use culturally extended rights and psychologically based utilities to protect the flora, or even the insentient fauna, to protect endangered species or ecosystems, we can only stammer. Indeed, we get lost trying to protect bighorns, because in the wild, cougars are not respecting the rights or utilities of the sheep they slay. And in culture, humans slay sheep and eat them regularly, while humans have every right not to be eaten by either humans or cougars. There are no rights in the wild, and nature is indifferent to the welfare of particular animals." Give you something to go home with and ponder that. A little bit countercultural. Anyone want to tell us anything about Holmes Ralston III? Saul Katz.
Well, with that story in mind, I'll start completely differently than I thought I would, but I think it's very relevant, which is, he was a great guy. He's a really kind person and a very special person to know personally. So I want you to be aware that his respect for my rights, if you will, and your rights, and all that we would stand for and support would be clearly part of who he was and is. And one of the things that happened was that he was the first one out to support everything that was going on. In fact, Kathy is here with us today. We were both very heavily involved with Meta-Nexus. And the very first Meta-Nexus guest lecture that we had in Philadelphia, was he volunteered to come from Colorado to address us all. And a huge crowd because of his outstanding work on the environmental ethics. In fact, he was known as it still is known as the father of environmental ethics in the world today. So he established a whole approach. And I hold this piece of paper in front of me because I wanted you to know that the second edition is a new environmental ethics, the next millennium for life on Earth, came out before he passed. So he did see that. And in a very short time, it's become the #1 cited reference on the field. So it's really taken off as a very important contribution. So if he was here today, he would be a very humble person telling us about what we needed to know about the fact that the temperature right around us today is 100 degrees in many places, because that's the environmental ethics that he dealt with. So one of his great contributions was to establish the way in which the humans involved in the policy regarding the Colorado River were adjudicated. In essence, he created the environment for the establishment of all the laws that created around that river, the Great Colorado River, and how the water was to be divided, and how people had to take a different approach. And so when he says new millennium for life on Earth, he meant just that. That's an issue that was present. And I looked up the date that our current president pretty much undid all of the EPA. Unfortunately, that happened after he passed away, so at least he didn't have to see what Trump did to the EPA. But in fact, I'm sure he went with the hope that all of us will support the activities that we have and that we need to have an environment that we can all be proud of, and that we're not leaving a desiccated earth, which is exactly what he was predicting if we went certain ways. And my concern is, if we want to really memorialize Holmes Ralston, I think what we should do is go out there and be sure that we support everything we can to get the regulations back in for the United States, because this is a travesty that is going on now that is going to catch all the generations in front of us, and anybody who's living today is going to feel this more and more. So I think one of the things I would just say in memorializing him, that's something we need to think about very seriously and know how to support. The only other thing I'd say is that Pauline and I were at a meeting in Denver, and we decided, well, we had to take a ride out and visit with Holmes. So we actually went to Fort Collins and and he loaded us down with all of his wonderful books he's written and all this other thing. And we had a delightful time with him and his wife there. And they're such great hosts. I wish he was here now to tell us the kinds of stories that he was filled with, that allowed him to have the clarity of insight about how to get people to talk with one another and solve problems that really could be solved in creative ways. I think that will happen, but without us doing everything to follow his footsteps. I'm very concerned about it, deeply concerned. I hope some other people here will join in who know his work as well.
Thank you, Saul. You put the microphone right there. Have you got somebody else?
Yeah, I have a memory. I remember taking a picture of Holmes Ralston standing next to Carl Peters. Holmes was a lot taller than Carl. Now this was on the ferry going back to Portsmouth, and I do believe Holmes Ralston had been a speaker. I think this is about the time he was also honored in Boston after winning the Templeton Foundation, the Templeton Award for Progress in Science and Religion. I also remember many pictures of Holmes on his web page and on the web. he would always be in a very natural setting and, you know, have a very sort of you could see he was an outdoorsy type person, which is the environment that he loved and wanted to preserve.
Thank you. If you could leave that down there, thanks. Just a little footnote for the lawyers or constitutional mavens, scholars among us, that it was William O. Douglas who suggested in the late 1960s that maybe trees need standing to sue. But he didn't go so far as to advocate rights to living but non-human entities, and I think that's all that Holmes was doing here, was cutting that back a little bit. Let's go on to the aforementioned Carl Peters, and we have Carl Peters' very own minister here, and I would invite Denny Moon to come up and give us a few words that he's written on Carl Peters recently.
Sorry. I dance like that too.
Thanks for the warning.
How are we doing it here?
Do your best.
Okay. Well, so how does a kid from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, born to a conservative Presbyterian family, an engineer father, lost his mother early, how does that person get to be a part of this esteemed group? And the answer to that, I think, is found in one of the things that he would like to say, he was fond of saying, which was that right now, we are on the forward edge of evolution. Right now. We're right there. Evolution is moving along, and we're right on the edge. And he was kind of taken with that and all of the change that implies that's happening in life. One of the things I would say to him, I'm fond of saying, all real life is a meeting, which is a quote from Martin Buber, which says, authentic relationship with an other is the place that real life goes on. You know, it happens right there in that space. And those two things would go kind of back and forth. And so Carl's life, in many ways, was this on the front edge of evolution, expecting change, and in fact being willing to meet others and to meet the world in such a way that he would change. He allowed himself to change along with the flow of evolution in his own life and in the world. And you can see that with his the way in which he no, I can't tell that story. Yeah, did you catch that? That was good. So he comes from this Presbyterian background. He goes to seminary, and then he goes to Union. He gets a PhD, and his brain just goes whoosh, and he is kind of including all of this thought, and this good Christian boy who grew up in Fond du Lac is now teaching the religions of the world to his students and explaining how they all have pluses and minuses, and that, if you believe in heaven and hell, then you believe life is a reward system. Does that seem to make sense? And he kind of moved intellectually in that way. But then, he had married Carol first, and she had died. And then, of course, he met Marge here at IRAS. And the two of them were intellectual equals, They were at it all the time. A lot of fun to sit down with the two of them. And that he said, you know, one of the things I never thought I would be, I became an activist because of Marge. She took me to this protest and she handed me a sign and said, go out in the street, stand up and shout. And so he said, I went out in the street and I stood up and shouted, and I thought, I'm an activist. And his willingness to kind of move into that. At the Queer Thought IRAS gathering, he came back from that and he said to me, I met the most beautiful woman I've ever met, and she was a man. She used to be a man. He said, who knew the world was like this? And that's his kind of accepting of change and movement in the world. I am forever grateful to be his friend, and I'm forever grateful to you folks, because he met you as this group that is science and religion meeting. All real life is meeting. And so it goes on here in this group of people that acknowledges how we are on the leading edge of evolution and willing to change and willing to have these conversations which bring us to change and others to change as well. One more thing, it's the preacher in me. Olivia Butler wrote The Parable of the Sower, and in that she says, whatever you touch changes, and whatever you change changes you. Whatever you touch changes. All real life is meeting. Whatever you touch changes, and whatever you change comes back and changes you. The evolution goes on. And Carl enjoyed that kind of life with you folks. So my hat's off to you, my hat's off to Carl Peters, dear friend, marvelous human being, as you all know.
Thank you, Jenny.
We have sort of public superstars like Michael Roos to be proud of with IRAS. And here is a man that's published interesting and daring theology over the course of his time, but also has been an institutionalist right at the heart of the human organization that is IRAS, and helping us to solve the problems. What are we going to do for next year's conference? Where are we going to go to if we get kicked out of STAR? Yada, yada, yada. All of that stuff. He never said, I'm too big for that, or I've done enough of that. He was ready to step up. Well, I'll be conference chairman. You having some trouble with the conference chairman? I'll step in as conference chairman. Just the kind of guy you wanted on your team, and humble, but ready to do whatever needs doing. He was a wonderful mentor to me, and I will never forget it. Who else wants to go beyond that? Yes, Joe Watts. Familiar figure.
I actually had to write some things down for this one. First of all, I went to go, when I think of Carl and Marge together, and I think of them in the context of Star Island, though I did go to Marge's memorial service, got all the way down there was one person there, and I was like, wow, this isn't well attended. And then I realized I was there on the wrong day. So I did visit your church, but I was able to have this amazing time with Carl one-on-one, and I think I came over and saw some of you later, which was great. So I consider Carl a friend, and actually rather than, jesting about getting kicked off of Star Island, I think that Carl and I shared and Marge too. I'm including Marge in this sort of commentary. I think both are great organizations, Star Island Corporation and the Institute on Religion in an Age of Science. I am a member of IRAS, maybe you didn't know that. I am because I think of Carl and Marge. I mean, all of you, and I love you, but they're the ones I dealt with the most, especially during this time, like with any relationship, we had troubles. John, Ted, Michael Calvin, all these conversations. Iris was leaving, Iris was coming back, and at the end, what really happened is Carl and Marge and I sort of started talking through what that might look like, and with help from others, but this is about Carl. And we pulled something together that got Iris to come back here, and I just feel there's such a strong connection. And so I think of Carl in many ways as so I don't have the theological commentary or the academic piece here. This is about, I have his climate change mug he gave me on my desk. I have his book on spiritual transformation on my bookshelf. I wish I had brought it, but there's a quote in there, and he's talking about when you're dying or in the end, and it was about love and community. And I feel that how relevant our theme is community, and here we are talking about him. I could go on and on, I won't, because I know there's a lot of speakers, but in addition to the mug and the book, I think of them all over the island. I think of them where we met to talk about Star at length, about how Iris could come back. I know the exact spot on the porch. I know I'll be, as I do, go up to the Memorial Courtyard, which is my favorite place on the island, and I will now be able to join all the other souls that I think about there. So Carl and Marge, truly special to the island and to Iris, obviously, and to me personally. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ted.
Everybody is being very disciplined because we could all talk for 15 minutes about Carl and not repeat because of all of our individual memories and how important he was to us. But I do think that there are a couple of things that should also be mentioned here because it wasn't just Iris, as many of you know, perhaps most of you. Carl was a very long time editor of Zygon and member of the Zygon board. As Saul, of course, knows so well, a moving person in reorganizing Zygon to be a corporation, but also set up the original joint publication board. Carl was also involved with CASIRIS, the Center for Advanced Study in Religion and Science. It was almost as if everything, all paths, during decades, led to Carl and his centrality in everything that we did. And he was, for me, just the sweetest person I ever dealt with. Which isn't to say that he couldn't be tough, and if he thought that you were off base, he would tell you, but he was always done in a way that was completely respectful and caring. In my case, I have to say, Carl brought me into IRAS. I had started to come and was recruited before I really got to know him to be a contributor to the IRAS newsletter, but then also become the editor of the newsletter. But it was Carl who appointed me first to be a member of the IRAS Council, and then before I began to be elected to the IRAS Council, again to be appointed again when I ran my first conference in 1999. Carl was the president, and I would turn to him again and again for advice as to how to handle things, to bring people in as speakers, how to handle budgetary issues. He was always there, always friendly, always supportive, and somehow it just isn't normal that he's not here anymore. So.
do one thing. So, I found the passage I was trying to point Denny to. Denny then goes on to tell a series, this is from an obit. Denny then goes on to tell a series of stories representing the key moments of evolution, a spiritual transformation that Carl experienced in his life and wrote about in his book by that title. Perhaps the most memorable of these is the one where at age 74, he was moved to dance in the aisles on a St. Patrick's Day Sunday at South Congregational Church when the fiddler began to play an Irish dance tune. Quote, about 8 measures in, his face lit up, his body began to rock to the rhythm, his whole being became consumed with joy, and he couldn't contain himself. He leapt to his feet and started dancing. He's pumping his legs up and down and moving his arms like he's jogging in place, and he is grinning from ear to ear. He is in a congregational church, which sometimes they call the Frozen Chosen. The congregation turns and looks at him as if to say, have you lost it? And he motions to them to get up and dance. Rita Gottberg gets up and starts dancing with him, then 1 or 2 others, and then half the congregation was up dancing in the aisles, literally dancing with the sacred. We're going to try to recall that moment after happy hour tonight, or at happy hour, when we're going to have some dance music for those who might want to waltz, and anybody that's got another anecdote or 2 up their sleeve that wasn't said during these times, we'll get you a microphone and you can say it to the rest of the group and share it. But Saul, you had another thing.
Well, this is an anniversary for Carl too. Carl and I met here on Star Island the very summer that he and I and Phil Hefner all met one another here. And that was in, I think in 1972. That was quite a while ago. And we all stayed with it because of the urging and the leadership of the previous group that were here that started IRAS on its journey that it is continuing on today. And so all of us made that commitment at the time, and others joined with us. I mean, Michael joined with us in a very special way. And likewise, many others, of course, have come too. And I just wanted to say, we need to celebrate the amount of time that requires. In other words, that continuous commitment to something. If we want to remember Carl, we want to remember the commitment, the enormous commitment that he made, the enormous commitment that he took on together with Marge to make Star Island and IRAS such an incredible institution that it is. So I think that again, please remember him for that too. Remember him for all the effort. I cannot tell you how much effort he went through with changing printers, or we call them printers, but they call themselves publishers of Zygon. We had to raise money where he got the administration of his college there, the university, it's now a university, I believe, at Rollins, to come in and support us. And likewise, IRAS supported them, and so there was this new kind of partnership that occurred. But it was, again, not only did he have an eye for what could be, but also what would be and is by creating a bridge that had a real business connection to it. And in that sense, that forward thinking became part of what the vision was for Zygon that became what it is today too. So I think that there's a really important dimension that we need to recognize, that he had that talent as well, and he contributed that talent to the operation of IRAS with all kinds of things like the Shapley Booth fellowships that he established and funded, and where people come and make a big difference here. So all I'm trying to say is, hey, remember him for that. When we get to the site where the stones are being laid, remember him then too, and remember Marge as well. The two of them were tied by, and we're the beneficiaries of it. Thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Saul. Let's close up with, oh yes, go ahead. Mary.
I'll be quick. Denny said that Marge made Carl an activist. I seem to remember, maybe this was in your talk, Denny, in Rocky Hills, no, wherever. Randy, that you also said that, Carl said that Marge made him a parent, that he didn't have children of his own, but she gave him this family, brought this family to him, which he just adored, and there they all are.
Just writing on that, Marion. Any time that we would get together, which is a couple times a month, and have lunch and talk, I would get an update on his grandchildren. Whatever was going on, whatever change had happened, he'd go, oh, they're going here, they did this, they graduated from here, they're going to this school. He was so.
All right, now, everybody that can grab a hymn book, open to the 722 is the number. 722. There's some more up here. Jennifer. Right there. Okay, we've memorialized 5 people, so this applies to all 5 of them as we read it. I think continually of those who were truly great.
Who from the womb remembered the soul's history through choruses of light, where the hours are suns, endless and singing.
Whose lovely ambition was that their lips, still touched with fire, should tell of the Spirit clothed from head to foot in song.
And rewarded from the spring branches, the desires falling across their bodies like blossoms.
What is precious is never to forget the essential delight of the blood drawn from ageless springs, breaking through rocks in worlds before our earth.
Never to deny its pleasure in the simple morning light, nor its grave evening demand for love.
Never to allow gradually the traffic to smother with noise and fog the flowering of the Spirit.
Near the snow, near the sun, in the highest fields, see how these names are fed by the way they grass, and the streams of white cloud, and whispers of wind in the listening sky.
The names of those who in their lives fought for life, who wore at their hearts the fire's center. Born of the sun, they traveled a short while toward the sun, and left the vivid air signed with their honor. Go in peace, my friends, and remember these wonderful people that have lived here among us. Amen.
Amen.
Evan, do we have the stone?
You have a what?
Is the stone thing?
The stone, oh yeah, they now go down to the stone. Yeah, almost all the way on the path. What do you call the path? Anyway, it's that way. Is there an off switch for the, is there an off switch for the sound system?
That was just really nice.
A little bit this morning, they didn't have it going outside.
Yeah, I know.
Just now. It is.
Well, I can go to the 17th.
Can we do it down there? Heavy? Nice words.
Thank you.
Get back out into the open air and the shade somewhere. Probably pretty cool. There's some nice windy spots on that one. This is the high iris was like 81 today. I think it's showing.
It's 101, it's 84 now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only 84, we should be happy. We're stinking hot.
You want to turn it off? Or on?
Turn it off.
I'll turn it off a little bit.
Alright. As a painter, I also, white masking tape is the bane of my existence.
Actually, believe it or not, they leave it on, but I turn the volume down.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm really mostly here to take the white tape off and add blue tape just because it doesn't leave the same kind of residue.
So you're,
Tanya is my sister. Yeah, I grew up coming to this conference as a child with my mom and her, and sometimes my dad would come too.
I've had lots of conversations with Tanya. And all of the poetry that she's written.
Yep. I think she hopes to come back one of these days.
Yeah, why is she,
I think for a few years when Peter was not, at the end of his life and kind of not as well, as we know from his old age, I think that just limited ability to travel. And then you have the pandemic happen.
oh, that's right, yeah.
And I think 2019 was the last year she was here. And then she's had some unfortunate job search kind of been.
She sent me a few emails over the years.
Yeah, so you have a
this,
sense.
that, and
Yeah. She got hired by this boarding school that kind of sort of didn't tell her that she was just filling in for a short term, and I think led her to believe it was going to be for longer. And then she finally got this job with the Library of Congress, but I think it was contract driven, and then of course with a political situation that completely just yanked all those monies. So then she was back to the drawing
I
board.
remember when she was on Nantucket.
Yes, at the Mariah Mitchell. Yep. So I think once some stability re-enters her life, which of course we're all.
Well, if you chat with her, give her my best.
I certainly will, Frank. Of course, yeah. I'll send her love.
Of course, I was friends with Peter at the drawing board.
Sure.
We had two of the wonderful principals.
Yeah.
And Barbara had family in Perry at the time.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, old family graveyard, we go there.
Oh wow, that's great. Yeah, I think Tanya and Lucille are in
talking, we were sort of going over what's going to happen at the end, and I thought that someone was going to tell us when the first candles hit the path. And so we were finishing the last one and stuff, and somebody said, they're at the door. And I went, but I understand that whole sense of the reference of.
Yeah, it was not, I was not upset by anything you did or anything that Jennifer did. It was the attitude of the conferees that they could just laugh and joke around and have a fun time here, wait for the start of the service, and then immediately after, Jennifer stopped, they were doing it again. And that,
Oh, yeah,
bothered me.
so I just want to sort of know, we
Yeah.
have to sort of understand that, and I think it was, we'll sort of just be mindful of that, yeah.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Suzanne?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think also when no one was leaving, and when they were all saying, I said, no, that's all. And I think people sort of, so we're aware of that, just so we know, because I know there's the whole ritual of coming up the hill. And
Yes,
it's
exactly.
that whole-
Yeah,
It's very,
And I'm a preacher's kid, and this place has always been really a
yes, I can imagine, yes. Oh, I was going to email you. This does have an organ.
Oh, good.
It does, yeah. I look right, it says, harpsichord, organ,
Oh, good.
chorus, things like that. So it does all those things, so.
Does it do those voices? Those freaky
It says
voices?
There's one in
chorus.
every
There
crowd.
it is, do it.
Let's see, what is the sound?
Do you work with this newfangled thing?
It's not going to the, I think, you know what, I think sometimes these things, if they're not used a lot, the little solenoid, it takes a while to kick in because you have to push, but it did switch to organ for me.
Try playing when you press voices, maybe the light's broken.
Here's the organ.
Oh, that's very good.
It's not going to
Some
organ,
difference
it's
in
not going to
Voorhees.
the, it's an electric piano.
And she's not coming up.
Maybe there's some other trick, maybe I'm sure that they can figure it out for you. Harpsichord, it does harpsichord.
Oh,
You can see it, she wrote the chorus.
I don't know the chorus.
And I just found out
Play
about
with
it
it.
last week, and I brought it with me and showed it to the gift shop.
Yeah, I think maybe the solo, it just hasn't been used in so long, it's probably, but it'll work at some
I
point.
texted her, I thought she
you
was
keep
coming out.
pressing it every few minutes.
She's not, so she's gonna send me the copies.
Do you know who the Reverend Sean
I told her I'm
Sean
not
Evans
crazy.
is? The singer, Reverend? That's
No.
who's singing it. That's why I was.
Oh, okay.
But, and it's very, the organ in the background just goes from, it's not that difficult a song, it's
Right.
the singing that makes it, so.
Yeah, I'm sure between Theo and Ray, they will figure that out
Yeah, okay.
easy.
Whew. It is, feels good in here.
Harrison said,
I
look,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
making
so
progress.
bad.
He said, hello to me in the hallway, so I figured I'm making progress. Making progress.
And we have no internet right now.
If you ask
So-
her about
Yeah, I noticed that. Do you know what
Minecraft.
the password is? Because mine forgot the Wi-Fi, so I just turned it off.
my
Anybody
grandson
know
was
the
that way a
password?
few years ago.
I don't
Wi-Fi
know.
password?
He's 24 now, so I think he's on
know.
it.
I don't know.
Adults in our church who are
like,
totally game to play.
Do you know the Wi-Fi password?
It's capital S star hyphen capital I island.
Thank you.
Hello, would you mind, so I can get a picture of the altar?
You don't want,
And I have a friend who used to work here and I wanted to send
Yeah,
her.
of course. Let me.
Thank you
You're
so
very
much.
sure. The pretty fresh flowers.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Space and burning massage and pushing it for a ritual.
Absolutely. Girls looking for a ritual.
Okay. Margaret and I have been talking this morning, sometime,
Yeah, that's true, that's fine. I just don't think when do we have the time to learn new things like tomorrow, 7:30. And it also, if they could do that, it just seemed to me a very abstract piece to have without the foundation of guitar. Be like, which is awesome. And if it's something they know and they could pull off,
Sure.
that would be fine. But I need that.
I'll check in with them later.
Okay.
We'll use this time for that.
All right.
Thanks. I'll check in with you later too.
The shirt one you gave us?
The shirt. Oh yeah, the shirt there on the other side. You want it? That's what we thought. And I never got around to the tape, so I figured since it was the already like really. Thank you. Wow. This is Jessica. I invited Jessica to come sing. Oh.
Yeah, did you,
No,
Yeah, be great.
from Wales.
And I had to
But
look
it
for
was
how many
When
songs
Now.
are on that kind of
ADDEMOWE or something.
Yeah,
They
okay.
changed the good enough, before the vote.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, this is, 1633.
Holy moly.
I know.
Well, we'll do like a 16:33 job.
I know, right? Right on.
Well, if we decide that we're gonna work on that today, we could, but that's a Saturday piece as well. If we have any work on it
Oh,
today,
we haven't done
that's-
that.
and I'll find out what key is good for most people.
No,
to
they
sing
haven't.
that.
Okay, so Dan has that? No, I'm just saying,
Yeah, like
you
today.
will need your PP
Yeah,
cover,
yeah.
yeah.
That way-
So I hope you try that out.
Okay, this one too.
And I want, oh, I like this one.
No, oh, this one's good. You'll know this one.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Maybe the other one too. One second, I'll show you all these ones.
We'll figure out what key works for most people to sing that and then just go whatever we get.
Thank you, and thank you for making it work in the middle of the service with handouts yesterday.
I didn't know that I was supposed to give them to them, but I could have, and it could have been all on one sheet, and I just didn't ask them to.
Oh, we both did not.
That's the same one, same one? Oh, this is on. I don't know if you want,
What day is this one?
I can send you to say that that's
I
not the
thought
voice
that was
song.
Saturday. I thought.
What happened here?
That's to protect yourself.
Oh, thank you. I thought I expressed yes to you.
Good.
And right away you invite
I
someone to
didn't want
sit
to
there.
body chop somebody. I just thought that'd be more subtle.
Oh, we were at the art farm, it was so cool there.
Oh,
yeah.
So with all the breeze coming in.
Oh,
yeah.
lovely. I was laying in my hot, stuffy room, sweating and thinking, there's a cool place on this island somewhere, but I couldn't get up. Your shirt came up amazing. You built it, so I have the same colored shirt. And then I trust you. I didn't ask for a color. You did it, and it was perfect.
I think
So
you
the
might
red.
have some on the back on this one.
No, I'm wearing it.
No, the new one.
On the back?
The V-neck you might have.
Okay. Unless you wrote front on the, I did, and I just assumed it would be the front. It's the same exact shirt as this one, just a different color. The color combination is awesome. The same.
You
Your
gave us a good
stuff
color.
is good. I'm glad it's going good.
She could do it for you on the front as well.
Whoa, and we coming and going.
And going.
That's right.
Star all the time.
So maybe I'll save it for next year, and then I'll do the back of this one, and then the front of the other one.
That's what I got going.
Yeah.
They do not care anymore, but I've ruined my kids. They'll now come up to me like, don't you mean this? It's a little poke back at me.
I was gonna try to play the piece, the piece that you had sent me, that, my strength that I was given, not the world, which is basically this little light, so if there, you can, like, yeah.
You have made it, and it's cooler here than it is down there.
This is good.
And if everybody hasn't yet met Jessica, she's joining us from IRAS.
Oh, you? I've known you for years.
Thanks.
Yeah,
What do
she's
they
a
call
great
that
singer.
person? What do they call that person? A ringer? Is that
A
the
ringer, yeah.
Like, I remember my dad used to play baseball in a league of lawyers, but he wasn't a lawyer. But he was a good baseball player.
That's funny.
Yeah, you have a mean set of pipes, so we are okay with that, yeah. So while the Wi-Fi isn't working, I can't play the piece that you sent today, but Jennifer has sent me this piece this afternoon for Saturdays, it would be, okay? And it's pretty much this little line of mine, just with a different twist. I don't have it to do, I'm not, so, one of the legislative key it's in, but how does it go? Or maybe your phone will work, I'm not sure.
I don't have Wi-Fi, but I think I've got enough bars.
Okay.
So let me pull it up.
Yeah. This is not for this stuff. Okay.
Oh, I love this one. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
And then you go into strength. Strength is the next one.
The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. No, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
Yeah, and we don't have to do the root piano, just like the color.
Yeah.
As they do on the
Yeah,
web.
that
so
sounds
that-
good.
Yeah, just throw it down, yeah.
Yeah. It is, it's a slightly different thing than this little light of mine in terms of how it flows.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
we can sing it, this little light of mine, if we don't have time to.
No,
finish it.
that's the, it's the
It's
exact
now
same thing.
circling endlessly.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But if you know that, and it works, they're very easy.
in my brain.
That's right.
So maybe you just want like the chords just to give the key,
And I can,
as well, yeah.
I've
Well,
got the, what comes after strength
Yeah.
and whatnot, I can shout it out.
So
Yeah.
folks who know, yeah, so this is the key, it's in C. Well,
This strength that I have,
you got now if I want you
the
to.
world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
wanted to sandwich the same style with this little light of mine and this joy of mine, we could do that processional and middle song. Or we could mix it
I'm
up.
not trying to understand, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll see whatever you tell me.
Okay, we can practice everything and decide as a committee.
It's nice with people coming in if they wanna join in and sing. So
Yeah.
whatever, like this one is a new like a new thing, it's awesome.
So that'd be a good middle song?
No, but I think they'd pick it up.
Yeah,
They've
so
heard
he's-
it a little bit on the path. I think they'll pick it up.
Then
And we already did the
I
other one
defer
as a
to
processional.
the lady in blue.
We can also sing the whole world in.
You know, I was just thinking in terms of, this sounds like it's like, once people here established, that it's gonna sound like this alike, and that's what they're probably gonna try to say. Whereas I think if they're here, and you say, this is like the such and such, it's different, then they get the instructions to sing it like this, and they're seated. If they're coming with the path, they don't have the chance to get, they're doing this like
They
this
need
different.
something
Yeah, it's so good. So I'd say this seems like a piece that's done in front of people, and they can pick it up while they're here. You know, you can speak, if they're coming with the path, it's like, it sounds like this little light, but they're singing, this piece is mine, and I don't, now I'm that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I mean, if you want to do like, you know, this little light because everybody knows it, and then say, now we're gonna do that with a different, so it really doesn't matter, it just seems to me that this one ought to be like, once people see it, so they can know it's gonna be different.
I was coming up the path singing this little light of mine, just so you know.
See, yeah, because it's this little light that did the works.
Plus we're carrying lights, right, so.
No, just now.
No, just now I
No, I
came
know,
over.
she overheard us and did
Oh, you mean
exactly what
coming
the
up?
concern was.
No, I just came in late and you guys were singing this and I started singing this little light of mine.
Yeah, so exactly what you guys were saying.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
So the opening song shall be.
Well,
My point was just, you're carrying
Whole
lights.
world, or sing the soul light of mine.
yeah,
Whole
I
world in his
don't.
hands is so,
Yeah.
because everybody knows it. Whatever you want to do.
Which the okay to what?
It doesn't matter. How could there be a
Well,
bad
how many
decision?
songs are we gonna do tomorrow? Like, are we doing,
I thought there were four.
there's never one thing for tomorrow night? Okay, so,
My
yeah,
guests have busy
Yes, we
schedules.
currently have 4.
Oh my gosh.
okay, so,
I thought you had mentioned that 4 might be.
I thought this little light of mine was one of the songs though.
it was, but we can,
And it's
we can like switch that around, but I think that if we're gonna, I think if you're gonna do never one thing, then we should get to that, so you can hear it.
Yeah.
And then we can, you just make a decision on this little light or, because this sounded great on the color, just doing that, just as it was right now, but I think that'd be cool if the congregation is sitting and they get it, but, the never one thing is a whole new piece, so if that's gonna be tomorrow, then we should probably get to it quick too. So how many people know it?
Which one is it?
Never one thing?
Listen to it.
Does anybody have a copy?
Yes. And certainly, I'm sure there need to be I wish I had a pencil. There are places where it goes. Let me see if my Wi-Fi is. Do they want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know wrong. I don't Yeah,
Yes.
sometimes it does
Yeah.
one break and then it does
It's like a weird
four
one
and then,
break.
yeah, so that it's,
Yeah.
I wrote them down. And you know where how long they go, the feelings of them. You know those things where it's like,
Just air.
yeah, where it's like,